don't have to speak when your energy screams untouchable. The aura of silent strength. Look at me, right now. I need you to understand something that's going to change how you move through the world. Something that weak people will never understand because they're too busy talking, too busy explaining themselves, too busy trying to prove their worth through words. You don't have to speak when your energy screams untouchable. Let that settle in for a moment. You don't have to speak. You don't have to explain. You don't have to justify. You don't have to defend. You don't have to convince anyone of anything. Because when you carry real power, when you possess genuine strength, when you walk through hell and emerged forged in fire, your presence speaks louder than any words ever could. This isn't about being mysterious for the sake of it. This isn't about playing games or trying to seem cool or adopting some fake persona. This is about understanding a fundamental truth that the ancient masters knew, that every truly powerful person throughout history has understood. Silence is not weakness. Silence is dominance. Silence is the ultimate power move. Because the person who needs to speak, who needs to fill the void with words, who needs to explain and justify and defend, that person is afraid. That person is insecure. That person is giving away their power with every word they speak. But you're going to learn to carry yourself in a way that makes words unnecessary. You're going to develop an energy so strong, a presence so commanding, an aura so untouchable that people feel it when you walk into a room. They won't need you to tell them who you are. They'll know. They'll sense it. They'll feel the weight of your silence like a physical force. And here's what's going to happen. While everyone else is talking, explaining, trying to impress, trying to be seen, you're going to have to be the only person in the room who doesn't need to say a word. And that's going to make you the most powerful person there. Because power doesn't announce itself. Power doesn't need to. Power just is. Stand here with me. Look around at the world we're living in. Everyone is screaming for attention. Everyone is performing. Everyone is desperately trying to be heard, to be validated, to be acknowledged. Social media has turned existence into a constant performance where people narrate every moment of their lives, explain every decision, justify every choice, seek approval for every thought. And what has that created? A generation of people who are completely dependent on external validation. People who can't sit in silence. People who panic when they're not being seen or heard or acknowledged. People whose entire sense of self is built on what others think of them, on how many likes they get, on whether people are paying attention. That's not power. That's slavery. That's being controlled by the opinions and attention of others. That's giving away your sovereignty, your autonomy, your strength to anyone who might or might not validate you on any given day. But there's another way, the way of silent strength, the way of the person who has done the work, faced the darkness, integrated the shadow, and emerged so solid in their own being that they no longer need external validation. The person who carries such undeniable presence that their silence speaks louder than anyone else's noise. That's what I'm going to teach you here. How to cultivate that energy. How to develop that aura. How to become so unshakable, so grounded, so completely certain of who you are that you never need to explain yourself again. Because your energy will do all the talking. This is about manifestation. Yes. But not the fake manifestation that the law of attraction gurus sell you. Not the think positive thoughts and the universe will give you things nonsense. Real manifestation. The kind where you become such a powerful, energetic force that reality literally reshapes itself around you. Where opportunities find you without you chasing them. Where people defer to you without you demanding it. Where respect comes automatically because your energy commands it. That's what silent strength creates. That's what being untouchable means. And by the time we're done here, you're going to understand exactly how to cultivate it. Let's start with what silent strength is not, because there's a lot of confusion about this. Silent strength is not being quiet because you're afraid to speak. It's not avoiding confrontation because you're scared. It's not staying silent because you don't know what to say or because you lack confidence. That's not strength. That's just weakness wearing silence as a mask. Silent strength is also not being passive. It's not being a doormat. It's not letting people walk over you while you say nothing. That's not power. That's just cowardice pretending to be strength. Real silent strength is something completely different. different. It's a strength that comes from such complete internal certainty that you don't need to convince anyone of anything. It's a power that comes from having faced your worst fears and survived. It's a presence that comes from knowing exactly who you are and being completely comfortable with that knowledge. Think of it this way. A lion doesn't need to tell you it's a lion. It doesn't need to roar constantly to prove its power. It can lie in complete silence, and you still know you feel that you're in the presence of something dangerous, something powerful, something that could destroy you if it chose to. That's energy. That's presence. That's aura. Or think of a mountain. Does a mountain need to speak to command respect? Does it need to explain its massiveness, justify its height, defend its existence? No, it simply is, and its presence is undeniable. People see it from miles away. They feel small in its shadow. They acknowledge its power without it saying a word. That's what you're cultivating. That mountain-like presence. That lion-like energy. The kind of silent strength that needs no announcement, no explanation, no justification. It just is, and everyone who encounters it knows it. But how do you develop that? How do you become a person whose energy speaks louder than words? That's what we're going to break down. The first foundation of silent strength is complete self-knowledge. Not the superficial kind where you know your favorite color or what you like to do on weekends. The deep kind. The uncomfortable kind. The kind where you've looked at every part of yourself, the good, the bad, the ugly, the shameful, the powerful, the weak, and you've integrated it all without flinching. This is shadow work. This is what Carl Jung was talking about when he said you need to make the unconscious conscious. Because as long as there are parts of yourself that you're hiding from, parts you're ashamed of, parts you haven't acknowledged, those create gaps in your energy. Those create weaknesses in your presence. Those make you vulnerable. Think about it. When you're insecure about something, when you're hiding something, when you're ashamed of some part of yourself, what happens when someone gets close to that topic? You get defensive. You explain. You justify. You talk. Because you're trying to cover the weak spot, trying to protect the vulnerable place, trying to make sure no one sees what you're hiding. That's leaking power. Every time you get defensive, every time you feel the need to explain or justify, you're giving away your power. You're showing people exactly where you're weak, and they can feel it, even if they don't consciously recognize what they're feeling. But when you've done the work of complete self-knowledge, when you've looked at every part of yourself and accepted it, when you have no secrets from yourself, there are no weak spots. There's nothing to defend. There's nothing to hide. There's nothing that someone can say or do that threatens your sense of self, because you've already acknowledged everything about yourself. And that creates an impenetrable energy, because there's nowhere to attack. There's no vulnerability to exploit. You're whole. You're integrated. You're solid all the way through. So the first step to developing silent strength is brutal self-honesty. Look at everything. The parts of yourself you're proud of and the parts you're ashamed of. The successes and the failures. The moments of courage and the moments of cowardice. The times you were strong and the times you were weak. All of it. Write it down if you need to. Journal about it. Meditate on it. Whatever works for you. But look at it all. Don't run from anything. Don't hide from anything. Acknowledge every part of yourself. Especially the parts you least want to acknowledge. And then this is crucial. Accept it all without judgment. Not approval. Not celebration. Just acceptance. This is who I am. This is what I've done. This is my history. This is my reality. I'm not going to pretend it's different. I'm not going to hide it. I'm not going to be ashamed of it. It just is. That acceptance creates solidity. That integration creates strength. That self-knowledge creates an energy that people can feel. Because you're not hiding anything. You're not faking anything. You're not performing anything. You're just completely, authentically you. And that authenticity is magnetic. That realness is powerful. The second foundation of silent strength is boundaries forged in self-respect. And I don't mean the kind of boundaries where you announce what you will and won't tolerate. I mean the kind of boundaries that are so solid, so immovable, so non-negotiable that you never have to announce them. You just enforce them silently. Most people have weak boundaries because their boundaries are negotiable. Someone crosses a line and they complain about it. They explain why it's not okay. They try to convince the person not to do it again. They seek understanding or apology or acknowledgement. But that's weak. That's treating boundaries as if they're suggestions that need to be discussed and agreed upon. That's giving other people power over whether your boundaries are respected. Real boundaries don't require discussion. Real boundaries are just enforced. Someone crosses a line, and you remove yourself from the situation. No explanation, no discussion, no second chances, just consequence. Immediate, silent consequence. This is what creates the energy of being untouchable. Because people learn very quickly that you don't argue about your boundaries. You don't explain them, you don't negotiate them, you just enforce them. And if they cross them, you're gone. Silent, final, non-negotiable. And here's what happens when you operate this way. People stop crossing your boundaries because they realize there's no discussion to be had, no manipulation that will work, no amount of talking that will change the consequence. Your boundaries are like walls of steel, silent, immovable, absolute. That creates respect, real respect, not the kind where people agree with you or like you, the kind where they understand that you are not to be trifled with, the kind where they know, without you saying a word, that crossing you has consequences. That's power. But you can only enforce boundaries this silently, this absolutely, when they come from deep self-respect. When you genuinely believe that you deserve to be treated well, that you don't owe anyone access to you, that your time and energy and presence are valuable. When that's true at your core, enforcing boundaries becomes natural. It's silent. You don't need to explain why someone can't disrespect you. You know you deserve respect. So disrespect simply results in removal of access. No discussion needed. Your self-respect is so solid that the boundary enforcement is automatic. That's the second foundation. Know your worth so deeply that protecting it becomes instinctive and silent. The third foundation of silent strength is competence, built through discipline. Because here's the truth. Silent strength is hollow if you haven't actually done the work. If you can't back up your presence with capability, if your silence is covered in competence, if your aura is all show with no substance, people will figure that out quickly. And then your silent strength becomes silent weakness. Real silent strength is built on a foundation of actual capability, skills that have been developed through thousands of hours of practice, knowledge that's been earned through study and application, experience that's been accumulated through years of actually doing difficult things. That's what creates the substance behind the silence. Think about the most respected masters in any field. The martial artist who has trained for decades. The craftsman who has perfected their art. The leader who has proven themselves through crisis after crisis. They don't need to tell you they're capable. You can feel it. You can see it in how they move, how they handle themselves, how they approach problems. That competence creates an energy, a certainty, a groundedness, because they know they can handle whatever comes. They've proven it to themselves thousands of times, so they don't need to prove it to anyone else. They don't need to brag or explain or demonstrate. Their capability speaks for itself, but that only comes through discipline, through doing the work when you don't feel like it, through practicing when no one's watching, through refining your skills not for applause, but for mastery, through building capability so solid that you never have to question whether you can handle something. This is the difference between fake confidence and real confidence. Fake confidence is loud. It needs to announce itself, prove itself, convince itself and others. Real confidence is silent. It's just a natural result of knowing you're capable because you've done the work. So the third foundation is this. Develop real skills. Build genuine competence. Not for show, not to impress people, but for yourself, so that your silence is backed by substance. So that your energy comes from actual capability, not performance. Discipline in your craft. Discipline in your body. Discipline in your mind. Discipline in every area where you want to be formidable. Every hour you put into developing yourself. Every session where you push beyond comfortable. Every moment where you choose growth over ease. That's building the foundation of silent strength. And here's the beautiful part. The more competent you become, the less you need to talk about it. The more you actually know and can do. The less you feel the need to prove it. Because proof is for people who are uncertain. When you know you're capable, you don't need anyone else to know. And paradoxically, That's exactly when people start to see it. The fourth foundation is emotional mastery, the ability to feel everything without being controlled by anything. Because silent strength isn't about suppressing emotions or pretending you don't feel. That's just repression. And repressed emotions leak out in ways you can't control, weakening your presence. Real emotional mastery is about feeling fully while maintaining complete control over how you respond. You can feel rage without showing it. You can feel fear without being paralyzed by it. You can feel grief without collapsing into it. You experience the full spectrum of human emotion, but you're not ruled by it. This creates an incredibly powerful energy, because most people are slaves to their emotions. They feel anger and they lash out. They feel insecure and they seek validation. They feel afraid and they freeze or flee. They're completely reactive, completely controlled by whatever they're feeling in the moment. But when you've mastered your emotional landscape, when you can feel intensely without reacting impulsively, you become unpredictable in the best way. People can't manipulate you through your emotions because your emotions don't control your actions. They can't push your buttons because you don't have buttons to push. You feel everything. You process everything. But you choose your responses based on principle rather than feeling. That's power. That's the kind of self-control that creates an untouchable aura. Because people sense that you're not controllable through normal means. They sense that you operate from a different level. A level where emotions are information rather than drivers. And the way you develop this is through practice. Through feeling difficult emotions without immediately acting on them. Through sitting with discomfort instead of seeking immediate relief. Through experiencing rage or fear or shame and choosing to respond from your values rather than your feelings. Every time you feel an emotion and pause before reacting. Every time you sit with difficulty instead of avoiding it. Every time you choose a principled response over an emotional reaction. You're building emotional mastery. You're training yourself to be the eye of the storm, calm and clear while chaos swirls around you. And that creates an energy that people can feel. They might not be able to articulate what they're sensing, but they know you're different. They know you're solid in a way most people aren't. They know that you're not going to be pushed around by emotions, by social pressure, by attempts to manipulate. That's the fourth foundation. Master your inner world so completely that the outer world loses its power to destabilize you. Now pause here with me. If what I'm saying is resonating, if you're starting to see how you can develop this kind of silent strength, this untouchable energy, I need you to do something. Hit that like button right now. Not as a favor to me, but as a statement to yourself that you are serious about this transformation. Then drop a comment below. Tell me, what's one way you've been giving away your power through talking too much, through explaining yourself, through seeking validation? Be honest. Be real. This community is built on truth, not performance. And subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because we're going deeper into the psychology of power, presence, and manifestation. This is just the beginning. Do it now. Make that commitment. The fifth foundation of silent strength is the ability to sit in discomfort without seeking relief. This is crucial. Most people cannot tolerate uncomfortable silence. They cannot handle awkward pauses. They cannot sit with tension without immediately trying to resolve it through talking, through explaining, through filling the void with words. But that need to fill silence, that compulsion to make things comfortable, that's weakness. That's showing that you're controlled by the discomfort, that you can't handle the weight of silence, that you need to relieve the pressure. Silent strength means you can sit in the most uncomfortable silence and be completely at peace. You can let conversations die. You can let awkward moments hang in the air. You can allow tension to build without feeling any need to resolve it, because you're comfortable with discomfort. You're at home in the void. This creates incredible power in interactions, because most people will do anything to avoid uncomfortable silence. They'll talk. They'll reveal things they didn't mean to reveal. They'll fill the space with words just to escape the discomfort. And in doing so, they give you information. They show you their fears, their insecurities, their weaknesses. But you just sit there, silent, comfortable, waiting. Not because you're playing games, but because you genuinely don't need to fill the silence. You're perfectly content letting it exist. And that comfort with discomfort is palpable. People can feel it, and it unnerves them because it's so rare. Think about negotiations, confrontations, difficult conversations. The person who can sit in silence has all the power, because silence creates pressure, and whoever breaks first, whoever starts talking to relieve that pressure, has just revealed their discomfort, has just shown they're controllable through that discomfort. But if you can sit in silence indefinitely, if you're genuinely unbothered by awkward pauses or uncomfortable tension, you become immovable. Because the tactic that works on everyone else, making them uncomfortable until they talk, doesn't work on you. You're comfortable in discomfort. You're at home in the void. This is a skill you can practice. Start with small things. When someone asks you a question, pause before answering. Let the silence hang for a moment. Notice the urge to fill it immediately. Resist that urge. Get comfortable with the space between question and answer. In conversations, when there's a natural pause, don't rush to fill it. Let it be. See how long you can sit in silence before you or the other person speaks. Notice how uncomfortable it makes people. Notice how they rush to fill it. Notice how much information they reveal in their discomfort. Practice this deliberately. Get comfortable with silence. Get comfortable with pauses. Get comfortable with letting tension exist without immediately resolving it. Because that comfort, that ease in the void, that creates an energy of complete self-possession. An aura that says, I don't need your approval, your validation, or even your comfort. I'm perfectly fine in this silence. And that's magnetic. That's powerful. That's the energy of someone who is untouchable. The sixth foundation is purposeful movement. Everything you do with intention. No wasted motion. No nervous energy. No fidgeting or restlessness or unconscious habits that leak your power. Watch how most people move through the world. Rushed, scattered, fidgeting, checking their phones constantly, looking around for validation or approval or something to distract them from being present. Moving with nervous energy that screams insecurity. Now think about how a master moves. Deliberate, economical, every motion purposeful. No wasted energy. Complete presence in whatever they're doing. Whether they're walking, sitting, working, there's an economy of movement, of precision, a deliberateness that speaks of total control. That's what you're cultivating. Purposeful movement, deliberate action, every gesture intentional. Because your body language speaks before you do. And if your body is broadcasting nervousness, insecurity, or scattered energy, no amount of words will create an aura of strength. Start noticing your habits. Do you fidget when you're uncomfortable? Do you check your phone out of nervousness? Do you touch your face, tap your foot, shift your weight constantly? These are tells. They're signs of internal discomfort leaking out through your body. Practice stillness. When you're sitting, sit completely still. When you're standing, stand with complete presence. When you move deliberately. Make every gesture conscious. Eliminate the unconscious nervous movements that signal insecurity. This isn't about being rigid or mechanical. It's about being intentional. About moving from center, from purpose, from complete awareness. Like a martial artist, like a predator. Every movement calculated, economical, powerful. And here's what happens when you do this. Your presence becomes heavier, more substantial. People notice you even when you're still. Especially when you're still, because you're not leaking energy through nervous movement. You're contained, concentrated, dense with power. That stillness, that deliberate movement, it's part of the aura of silent strength. It broadcasts, I am in complete control of myself. I waste no energy. I move with purpose. And that's felt by everyone who encounters you. The seventh foundation is the ability to walk away without explanation. This is where most people fail completely. They can't leave situations, relationships, conversations without explaining why, without justifying their decision, without seeking understanding or agreement. But every explanation is a request for permission. Every justification is an admission that you're not sure of your choice. Every attempt to make someone understand is showing them that you need their approval. Silent strength means you can walk away from anything, a conversation, a relationship, a job, a situation, without a word. Just gone. No explanation. No justification. No discussion. Because you don't owe anyone an explanation for your choices. You don't need anyone to understand or agree. You made a decision and you executed. Silently. This is incredibly rare. Most people are so desperate to be understood, so attached to being seen as reasonable or justified, that they can't make a move without explaining it. They need everyone to agree that they're making the right choice. They need validation. But that need for validation is what keeps them trapped. Because as long as you need people to understand or agree with your decisions, they have power over you. They can withhold that understanding. They can refuse to agree, and that can stop you from doing what you know you need to do. But when you can walk away without explanation, when you can make decisions and execute them without seeking anyone's approval or understanding, you're completely free. You're sovereign. You answer to yourself alone. Practice this. Start small. Leave conversations without explaining why you're leaving. Make decisions without justifying them. Say no without giving reasons. Just know, I'm leaving. This doesn't work for me. And then execute. No discussion. No explanation. People will push back. They'll demand to know why. They'll accuse you of being rude or unreasonable. They'll try to make you feel obligated to explain. Don't. Your silence in the face of that pressure is what builds the aura of being untouchable. Because you're demonstrating that you don't need their permission, their understanding, or their agreement. You're showing that you operate from complete autonomy, and that autonomy, that freedom from the need to justify yourself, that's power that people can feel. The eighth foundation is selective visibility. Understanding that your power increases in proportion to how little you reveal. Not because you're hiding or because you're ashamed, but because mystery is magnetic and scarcity creates value. Most people tell everything. They narrate their entire lives on social media. They explain every decision, share every thought, broadcast every feeling. They're completely visible, completely accessible, completely known. And in doing so, they make themselves common. They eliminate mystery. They give away all their power. But when you're selectively visible, when people only see what you choose to show, when there are parts of you that remain unknown and unknowable, that creates a gravitational pull. People want to know more. They want to understand you. They want access to what you're not freely giving. That desire, that curiosity, that sense that there's more to you than meets the eye. That's part of the untouchable aura. Because you're not an open book, you're a mystery. And mysteries are compelling in a way that complete transparency can never be. This doesn't mean being dishonest or manipulative. It means being selective. It means not broadcasting every thought and feeling. It means keeping parts of your life private. It means letting your actions speak louder than your explanations. It means that when people ask intrusive questions, you don't answer. When they try to extract information from you, you remain closed, not defensively. Defense shows they've touched a nerve, but casually, easily, as if their curiosity simply doesn't obligate you to reveal anything. This creates an energy of self-possession, of someone who doesn't need to share everything for validation, doesn't need to explain everything to be understood, doesn't need to be completely visible to feel seen. You're comfortable being partially unknown, and that comfort with being misunderstood or not fully known, that's power. Practice this by becoming more private. Stop sharing so much. Stop explaining so much. Stop seeking validation through visibility. Let your life speak for itself. Let your results be your statement. Let your energy be your communication. The ninth foundation is a complete absence of seeking validation. This is the final and perhaps most important foundation. Because as long as you need validation from anyone, approval, acknowledgement, recognition, praise, you're not untouchable. You're vulnerable. You're controllable through that need. Silent strength requires complete internal validation. You know who you are. You know your worth. You know your capabilities. And that knowledge is so solid, so unshakable, so independent of external feedback that nothing anyone says or doesn't say can change it. This is incredibly rare. Most people are completely dependent on external validation. They need likes on their posts to feel good about themselves. They need compliments to feel attractive. They need recognition to feel successful. They need approval to feel worthy. And that need makes them weak, because it means their sense of self is in other people's hands. It means they'll do things they don't want to do to get validation. It means they'll tolerate disrespect to avoid losing approval. It means they're controlled by the opinions of others. But when you've completely severed the need for external validation, when you genuinely don't care whether people approve or recognize or acknowledge you, when your sense of worth comes entirely from within, you become untouchable. Because there's no lever to control you. There's nothing people can give or withhold that affects your sense of self. And that independence, that self-sufficiency of identity, that creates an energy so powerful that people are drawn to it like moths to flame. Because it's so rare. Because most people are so desperately seeking validation that encountering someone who genuinely doesn't need it is magnetic. This is cultivated through practice. Every time you feel the urge to seek validation, notice it and resist it. Every time you want to share something for approval, stop. Every time you feel hurt by lack of recognition, observe that feeling without acting on it. Gradually, you wean yourself off the need for external validation. You start deriving your sense of worth from internal measures. Did I do my best? Did I act according to my values? Did I execute with discipline? Am I better than I was yesterday? Those internal measures become your only measures. What anyone else thinks becomes irrelevant. And when you reach that point, when you're genuinely operating from complete internal validation, your energy changes. You become solid in a way that's palpable. You become unmovable in a way that's magnetic. You become untouchable in a way that commands respect. Now let me talk about what happens when you embody all of these foundations. When you have complete self-knowledge, solid boundaries, deep competence, emotional mastery, comfort with discomfort, purposeful movement, the ability to walk away without explanation, selective visibility, and zero need for validation. You become a force, not through what you say, but through what you are. Your presence precedes you. When you enter a room, people feel it. They might not consciously know what they're feeling, but they know something is different. Someone substantial has arrived. You don't need to announce yourself. You don't need to prove yourself. You don't need to impress anyone. You just are, and your being, your energy, your aura, your presence speaks louder than anyone's words. People defer to you automatically, not because you demand it, but because your energy naturally commands it. They seek your approval, even though you never seek theirs. They want your attention, even though you're not chasing anyone's. They respect your boundaries, even though you never explain them. This is manifestation in its truest form. Not thinking positive thoughts and waiting for the universe to deliver, but becoming such a powerful, energetic force that reality reshapes itself around you. Opportunities find you. Resources flow to you. People want to be associated with you. Doors open that are closed to others. Why? Because energy is real. Presence is tangible. Aura is perceivable, even if people can't articulate what they're perceiving. And when you cultivate this level of silent strength, when you embody these foundations completely, you become undeniable. But let me be clear about what this requires. This isn't a quick fix. This isn't a technique you learn in a weekend. This is years of work, years of facing yourself, years of building discipline, years of mastering your reactions, years of choosing principles over comfort. Most people will never do this work. They'll read about it, feel inspired for a moment, and then go back to seeking validation, explaining themselves, filling silences with nervous chatter, giving away their power through words. But you can be different. You can commit to this path. You can decide that you're going to build this kind of silent strength, this untouchable energy, this commanding presence. And if you actually put in the years of work, you'll become someone who moves through the world in a completely different way than most people. You'll walk into rooms and feel the shift in energy. You'll make decisions and watch people align with them without question. You'll set boundaries and see them respected automatically. You'll pursue goals and find obstacles, removing themselves from your path. Not because of magic or luck, but because you become a gravitational force that pulls reality toward you. That's the power of silent strength. That's what being untouchable creates. That's what happens when your energy screams what your mouth never needs to say. Let me give you some practical implementations, ways to start building this today, right now, in your actual life. First, implement strategic silence. For the next week, consciously practice saying 50% less than you normally would. When someone asks you something, pause before answering. When you have an opinion, notice the urge to share it and resist half the time. When you want to explain yourself, don't. Notice what happens. Notice how uncomfortable it feels initially. Notice how people react. Notice how much power you reclaim just by speaking less. This isn't about being rude or distant. It's about breaking the habit of filling every silence with words. Second, start eliminating all explanations. When you make a decision, execute it without justifying it to anyone. When you set a boundary, enforce it without explaining why. When you leave a situation, just leave. No reasons given. No justifications offered. No seeking of understanding. This will be incredibly uncomfortable at first. You'll feel rude. You'll feel like you owe people explanations. But push through that feeling, because that feeling is just the old pattern of seeking approval. And breaking it is essential to building silent strength. Third, practice sitting in discomfort. Deliberately create uncomfortable silences and sit in them. In conversations, let pauses extend longer than feels natural. When someone asks you something confrontational, don't rush to defend. Just look at them. Let the silence hang. Get comfortable with that weight. Fourth, audit your social media presence. How much are you sharing? How much are you explaining? How much are you seeking validation through posts? Cut it in half, then cut it in half again. Start becoming more private, more selective, more mysterious. Let your life speak for itself through results, not through explanations. Stop narrating every moment. Stop seeking acknowledgement for everything you do. Start operating from a place of complete self-sufficiency in terms of validation. Fifth, develop a physical practice that builds body awareness. Martial arts, yoga, weightlifting, dance, something that makes you conscious of how you move, how you hold yourself, how you occupy space. Because developing command of your body is essential to developing command of your energy. Practice moving with complete intention. Practice stillness. Practice economy of motion. Notice your nervous habits and eliminate them one by one. Build the kind of physical presence that broadcasts strength without words. Sixth, keep a private journal where you practice radical self-honesty. Write about the parts of yourself you're ashamed of, the mistakes you've made, the weaknesses you're hiding, the fears you don't acknowledge. Bring everything into consciousness. Integrate all. Build complete self-knowledge. This isn't for anyone else to read. This is for you to face yourself completely. To know yourself so thoroughly that there's nothing anyone can say that reveals something you haven't already acknowledged. That self-knowledge creates impenetrable armor. Seventh, practice walking away. Start with small things. Leave conversations that aren't serving you. Stop tolerating disrespect. When something doesn't feel right, remove yourself. No explanation. No discussion. Just execute your boundary silently and absolutely. This builds the muscle of autonomous action, of making decisions based on your own judgment and executing them without seeking permission or approval. That autonomy is essential to the untouchable aura. Eighth, create a personal code, a set of principles that guide your behavior regardless of circumstances, and then live by that code with absolute consistency. No exceptions, no negotiations, no compromise. When you're completely consistent in living by your principles, people learn they can't manipulate you, can't push your boundaries, can't get you to violate your code. That consistency creates an energy of immovability, of strength that can't be bargained with or worn down. Ninth, study people who embody silent strength, not to copy them, but to observe. How do they carry themselves? How do they speak or not speak? How do they handle confrontation? How do they move through the world? Learn from observation. Then adapt the principles to your own authentic expression. These are all practical steps, things you can start doing today. But understand, this is a lifelong practice. You don't master silent strength in a month or a year. You develop over years of consistent practice. You build it through thousands of small choices to be silent when you want to speak, to be still when you want to fidget, to walk away when you want to explain. But every choice builds the foundation. Every moment of practice strengthens the energy. Every decision to embody these principles instead of seeking comfort makes you more solid, more grounded, more untouchable. And over time, you'll notice the shift. You'll feel first a growing sense of internal solidity, of certainty, of power. And then you see it reflected in how people treat you. More respect, more deference, more automatic acknowledgement of your authority. Not because you demanded it, not because you explained it, but because your energy commanded it, because your presence spoke what your mouth never needed to say. That's the goal. That's what we're building toward. An energy so strong, a presence so commanding, an aura so untouchable that you never need to prove yourself, explain yourself, or justify yourself. You just are, and everyone who encounters you knows it. Now let me address the shadow side of this, because it's important. Silent strength can become a trap if you're not careful. It can become a way of avoiding vulnerability, of hiding from connection, of using silence as a shield against intimacy. That's not what we're building. We're not building walls. We're not building isolation. We're building strength that allows for vulnerability, not strength that avoids it. The difference is crucial. Weak people avoid vulnerability because they're afraid it will destroy them. They can't open up because they're not solid enough to handle the exposure. So they hide behind walls, behind performance, behind masks. But truly strong people can be vulnerable because they know vulnerability won't destroy them. They're so solid in themselves that they can open up, can share, can connect, not from need, but from choice. And that vulnerability from a place of strength is incredibly powerful. So as you build this silent strength, make sure it's creating the capacity for deeper connection, not preventing it. Make sure your silence is coming from choice and power, not from fear and avoidance. Make sure your untouchability is about being sovereign, not about being isolated. The goal is to be strong enough that you don't need people, but open enough that you can choose to let them in. Solid enough that you don't need validation, but present enough that you can receive appreciation. Self-sufficient enough that you don't need approval, but generous enough that you can give it. That's the balance. That's the integration. Silent strength that creates space for deep connection. Untouchable energy that paradoxically draws people closer because it's not needy, not grasping, not desperate. You become like a mountain, solid, unmovable, powerful, but not closed off. People can climb you, can find shelter on you, can build on your foundation. Your strength becomes something that serves, not just something that protects. That's the highest expression of this work. Silent strength in service of something greater than self-protection. Untouchable energy that creates safety for others. Powerful presence that elevates everyone around it. Alright, we're coming to the end of this journey together, and I want to leave you with a final understanding of what you're actually manifesting through this work. You're not just manifesting success or respect or opportunities, though those will come. You're manifesting a completely different relationship with reality. You're manifesting sovereignty. You're manifesting freedom from the opinions and validations and judgments of others. You're manifesting the ability to move through the world as a force rather than a reactor. Most people are reactors. They react to what people say. They react to circumstances. They react to judgments and criticisms and praises. They're completely externally determined. Their internal state is constantly being shaped by external inputs. But when you embody silent strength, you become a force. You don't react to reality. Reality reacts to you. Your energy is so solid. Your presence is so commanding. Your aura is so strong that you shape the environment you enter. You set the tone. You determine the dynamic. You create the reality you move through. That's true power. That's true freedom. And that's what's available to you when you do this work. So here's my final challenge to you. What you do after this video ends will determine whether this was just entertainment or the beginning of transformation. Most people will feel inspired for 20 minutes and then go right back to explaining themselves, seeking validation, filling silences with nervous chatter. But you can be different. you can take what you've learned here and actually apply it. Starting right now, starting today, you can commit to building silent strength, to developing untouchable energy, to creating an aura that speaks louder than any words. And if you do that, if you actually implement this consistently over months and years, your life will transform in ways you can't imagine right now. You'll become someone who commands respect without demanding it. Someone who attracts opportunity without chasing it. Someone who influences reality without forcing it. That's the power of silent strength. That's what being untouchable creates. That's what happens when your energy screams what your mouth never needs to say. So make a choice. Commit to the path. Do the work. Build the foundations. Practice the principles. And watch yourself become someone who moves through the world in a completely different way. Before you go, I need you to do 3 things. First, like this video if it resonated. That tells me you're serious, and it helps this message reach more people who need it. Second, comment below with one area where you're going to start practicing silent strength. Where are you going to stop explaining yourself? Where are you going to enforce boundaries silently? Where are you going to reclaim your power through less speaking? Tell me. Make it public. Make it real. And third, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, because this is just the beginning. We're going deeper into the psychology of power, presence, and manifestation. We're building a community of people who refuse to give away their power, who understand that true strength is silent, who are committed to developing untouchable energy. Subscribe and become part of that community. Do it now. Don't wait. Your transformation starts with that commitment. Now, go. Stop talking. Start being. Let your energy do the speaking. Become untouchable.